I saw a lot of colleges charging $85,000, $100,000 for these bachelor degrees to get a bachelor's in network admin or cybersecurity and struggling to find jobs in the open job market.
Hi there, welcome back to another episode of Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. I'm Mike Mahoney, your host, and today I have my guest with me. His name is Terry Kim, and he is from NGT Academy, and they teach cybersecurity. So welcome to the show, Terry.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike. Glad to be here.
So let's dive right in. Tell me how NGT Academy got started.
Yeah, so I started this company in 2016, and at that time, I was working on basically a third startup idea, and it was really based on my passion for teaching and just my passion for being an IT professional. So I cut my teeth as a network engineer in the Air Force and became an instructor. And about 2015, I saw a lot of colleges charging $85,000, $100,000 for these bachelor degrees to get a bachelor's in network admin or cybersecurity and struggling to find jobs in the open job market. And what I knew was that college was not the answer, that if you wanted to break into IT, the fastest way to break into IT is getting hands-on training, getting your hands dirty, building that PC, right? Configuring those switches, the phones, the routers, the firewalls, just getting your hands dirty. And so the big idea was there is an alternative to college, because I knew that I didn't have to go to college to break into IT. You can just work on some IT projects, get a few IT certifications, and work your way up the corporate ladder. So I wanted to start NGT Academy as a vocational training school where you can go train with us for 4 months versus 4 years of college and start your career in IT. So not only we do cyber security, but we also offer network engineering. We're also going to be launching our advanced DevOps cloud track here in December. And we're also going to be launching a product UI UX. And also, since AI is taking the market by storm, we're also building a advanced data science AI machine learning track as well. So that's a little bit about NGT Academy. We take people from zero to engineer in months versus years.
Excellent. So if someone enrolled and became a student, what can they expect as far as their experience?
Yeah, so we start off with fundamentals. So learning networking, how packets move throughout the network, learning the OSI model, and really building a strong foundation. Once we build the strong foundation, which takes about 30 to 60 days, then we assign you multiple capstone projects where you get to architect, plan, and configure out an entire infrastructure. We're talking about switches, routers, firewalls, voice over IP. We're talking about IPsec tunneling, setting up a data center for co-location and business continuity, like the whole 9 yards. And that's what really makes our training unlike any other program out there. It's project-based training with mentorship and weekly live coaching. And so this takes about 4 to 6 months, depending on if you're part-time or full-time. And with our current track, you get basically network engineering and cybersecurity all in one basically bundle. You get access to it for 18 months, and there's up to 9 certifications you can earn. And this also includes white glove career services. So we help you with mock interviews, resume, cover letter. We also match make you with over 500 employers on our network if there's a match. And it's basically A to Z, white glove training, practical hands-on, coaching, mentorship, you name it.
And what percentage of your graduates go on to a career in IT?
It's give or take is about 88 to 92%, I would say. So average around 90%, 9 out of 10. If you complete the program, get all the certs, then 9 out of 10 times we're going to be able to place you in a pretty amazing career role.
Yeah, I know when I was a CTO, one of the biggest struggles I had was I worked with a company early on that everything, they're very entrepreneurial. So even my position, I was paid a very small base salary, and I probably made 5 times what that base salary was in bonuses. So they really believed in that, and so they didn't quite understand, I'm hiring a developer. They don't want to hear about bonus for their pay. They want to hear about, what am I getting paid? And they were always under market rate. And so I always had to be creative about how I'd find somebody. So a place like this would have been really cool to have around, because you got a brand new person coming out, but they've been well trained. That's the key, is that they've been well trained. And what I like about what you said is the hands-on part. I mean, I can tell you stories of people that I worked with who went through, like, do you remember like when MCSE was the big
Oh yeah.
push for everybody, and they got these huge thick books that they would go through, but then they would come out and they wouldn't know even how to change the toner in a laser printer.
Exactly. Paper certified, like being in the industry, what saddened me was the test kings, pass for sures, people really just, memorizing a pool of questions, a bank of questions, and grabbing this certification, thinking that they're going to break six figures. But, hate to break it to you, like the fastest way to move up in IT is to learn the technology, learn the devices, learn the configurations, the command line, like, and actually tinkering around with these type of IT like gadgets and solutions. That's how you like really level up your skills. So that's how I learned, when I first broke into IT at 21, I was like, you know what, let me just start off with the PC. I want to buy every single part of this computer and just put it together like a Lego block, right? And then learn like what oh, the CPU is the brains. Oh, this hard drive stores, you know, all the photos and all the data, and like the memory is what makes it work, and like, and it's all relatable. And that's how we teach our students, giving them the context of why are they doing the things they're doing. Because yeah, there's college students, you can, in a job interview, I had a CIO tell me, he just kind of flipped over the laptop and say, hey, I just need you to configure this switch port. And this is a paper certified CCNA with a bachelor's, clueless, couldn't even configure one switch port. And I can tell you, our students, they come out of our program, there's over 100 real world skills that they can apply on day one of the job.
Do you do anything like, obviously technology is changing so quickly. So does your program do anything like offer them like the ability to come back later and retrain on certain things?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had students go through our network engineering program, become a network admin, come back to us for cybersecurity training, and now he's doing cybersecurity consulting for CDW. So a lot of, let's say, even cyber, like we can take people from zero to cyber like analysts, but if you already have like an IT role, we can also up level you with certain advanced tracks like our cyber track, also our cloud DevOps track, even our data science and AI track. These tracks are intended for people that are already in IT and you want to take your career to the next level as well.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So what do you think is the biggest challenge for a student entering the program?
I think the biggest challenge is just getting their mindset right, like, and really having the commitment to go all the way through. I would say that those are the two things. And so that's why we even teach soft skills such as how to have the right mindset before coming into the program, right? Because sometimes you have to forget what you think you know. And that allows space for you to really tack on these new skills. And our company, NGT Academy, was built by real world engineers. Me and my co-founder both served in the military. We're also instructors with top secret clearances. And I'll tell you, Mike, in the military, we had to train 18, 19 high school students that graduated out of high school coming into the Air Force. And we didn't have 4 years to train them. We had 16 weeks, 4 months. So that's why we had the confidence to start this academy and say, hey, like, do not waste your time, in college and spend $100,000 in student debt, right? And when you have an alternative like NGT Academy, you can do it for 1/10 of the cost and at a fraction of the time. And if you want to get started and you're listening to this podcast, you can grab my book, Zero to Engineer, The Story of the American Dream. This is literally me as a first generation Korean American coming here to the United States and landing my IT job without a college degree and obtaining financial freedom, and you get to work on the latest technologies. You can grab this book for free at zerotoengineer.com/book. And all you have to do is pay for shipping. And this book can get you your first job in IT, literally. It also comes with a free bonus of the CompTIA Network Plus course. And when you get that Network Plus and you do this book, you could probably break into your first job, without even coming through our training. That's how powerful this book is.
Yeah, that's really amazing. It's interesting to me. You're the second person, actually, I think in a row, on this show who has a background in the military and IT. For me, from my perspective, I mean, I've been around a long time and I never really understood how IT worked within the military. Yet I knew it was an important role. I just never understood quite how it worked. I mean, the last particular guy, he actually ended up working with the White House. So he helped with their communications and whatnot. But it's really interesting to hear how quickly you have to train these people. And I mean, it just goes to show you that like it's about what you expect from the student. My oldest son used to play roller hockey, and there was a coach that would take these kids that were like 6 and 7 years old, and they'd win national championships. And so someone asked him, "How do you do it?" And he says, "I treat them like hockey players. I don't treat them like 6 and 7 year olds." And it's kind of that, his expectation was they could do what he told them to do. And that's kind of the same thing, I think, with, when you're in the military and you've got 16 weeks to get somebody up to speed. If you don't have the confidence that you can get them there, it's not going to happen. So just having that confidence and knowing you can do it is really interesting. So what inspired you to write the book?
This book really came about a little too late, I would say. I wish I wrote the book 5 years ago or 6 years ago when I started the company. And what made me write this book was to be able to provide everything I've learned and an accelerated path for inspiration, mentorship, guidance, all compressed in 123 pages here. So it's a small book. You should be able to even finish this book in 1 or 2 sittings. And what inspired me to write the book is to be able to tell my story that hopefully can inspire millions of other people, where I came from, pretty much zero background, right? I didn't even know how to turn on a computer. And so if someone like me that was very foreign to technology, but just had a passion to learn something new and knew that technology was the future, this book is going to save not only money, but time and a lot of unnecessary headache and frustration as you kind of embark on this path of information technology. Because this book is really for anyone that wants to break into IT, not just like, oh, I want to be a network engineer or I want to be a cybersecurity guy. No, this book is for anyone that wants to jump into the world of, tech. And that's why I wrote this book, to inspire people and then show them. In the book, I have pathways to show you how you don't have to go to college for 4 to 6 years. And you can break into IT within your first year by just committing to it. And this book lays out the entire blueprint, basically.
So let's switch gears and let's talk about your career in IT. What do you think was your biggest challenge throughout your career?
I'd say there's always been challenges, and what helped me accelerate my career was to tackle those challenges head on. So when Hurricane Katrina hit the Mississippi Gulf Coast, I was a network engineer at Keesler Federal Credit Union. And at this credit union, I saw these challenges they had with like not being able to service the loans much faster because the way the phone system was on the analog and they couldn't get the right call queues or call waiting or reporting set up right. So when we introduced Cisco's unified voice solution, it was a game changer. It brought them from the Stone Ages to modern technology. And they were just like, wow, I can't believe all this technology is allowing us to better serve our members. And so I always say, embrace the hard challenges that you see around you and inside your work environment. Because if you can solve those challenges, I promise you, you are going to be able to shine within the IT department. And the goal is for you to lead projects within the IT department and be close to the VP of IT or the director of IT, or maybe even a CIO, where you can report directly to that person and really bring value. How do you bring value? You bring value by solving business problems with IT solutions. And then you become basically the architect. You become the lead engineer. And at first, you might be intimidated. Like, I don't know how to lead projects. Well, guess what? Like, all you have to do is be what I consider like the champion, right? of that technology solution, because you see there's a huge problem in your work environment. You know this IT solution can solve it. Let's say, for example, you have a lot of on-prem applications in your data center, but you don't want to spin up a DR site. Maybe the DR site could be a cloud solution. So you learn now AWS or Microsoft Azure, and you're able to build like a on-prem in the cloud. And if you don't know that technology, you can work with vendors like in Amazon, like Google, like Microsoft, and they have these subject matter experts that can come in via the account managers because they want to sell you these solutions. So what I found was a good hack for me early in my career is I would surround myself with these manufacturer engineers, and Cisco has like these value-added resellers, like 20,000 resellers all around the world that are selling like $40 billion of IT solutions. Now, they have experts. So imagine surrounding yourself with these really subject matter experts in any particular technology, and that's how you level up. And I was fortunate to really understand quickly in my career that the way to move up in an IT organization is to work on the complex problems, to work on the big projects. And if you're not leading the project, volunteer for the projects. That's all you have to do. And that's what I did in my early phase.
That's very interesting. So let's say there's someone and they've just been promoted to like a director level of IT, and they come to you and they ask you for some advice on, how do I manage this team? Like, what should I be doing with my team to keep them around, make them happy, and get the most out of them? What would you recommend?
I'd recommend always having a career progression plan. If you're a director or CIO, it's like, how do you also upskill or reskill people that are across your different sub-organizations? When I say sub-organizations, think about the help desk is one team. You've got tier 1 support that might escalate to tier 2 and tier 3, depending on how big the company is. But then you also have like the sysadmin guys that manage all the servers, and you have the network guys, and then you have the security guys, and maybe you have the storage and cloud guys, and the programming software engineers, and so on and so on. So it's like, how do you create a place, an environment that really promotes advancement? And they could advance either in that department, or they can even move across departments from help desk to network engineering, or from network engineering to cybersecurity, and so on. And it's like, my advice is to give them a career progression plan, show them that there's upward mobility and there's advancement that can happen over a career if they stay in the company 5 or 10 years and so on, for or a longer bright future. Because if you don't give them those promotion opportunities, they're not going to want to stay on the help desk for 10 years, right? They're not going to be wanting to stay as a system admin for 10 years. They want to move up.
See, and you mentioned a little while ago about people volunteering, like if it's not their role, volunteer to get involved in the project. And like, it was a philosophy of mine when I had a team that we would have our monthly meetings, and we would have a section we would call what's working, what's not working. And you'd end up with a list of things that were either broken, glitchy, something's wrong. And, let's just use as an example, let's say it's the email server has a problem. And so your email administrator is trying to deal with that. What I would do is I would always take somebody who wasn't the email administrator and make them the key stakeholder for fixing that issue. And the purpose was to expose them to all these different projects. And at first my staff was like, our last guy didn't do this. Why are you doing this? I don't understand. Why? I'm the help desk technician. Why am I helping with an email problem? You'll find out. And what ends up happening is when you do this, your whole staff becomes knowledgeable about all the parts. And you're right. People suddenly go, oh, you know what? That kind of role was cool. I want to try that. And so they work towards some kind of a promotion. It just makes sense. Plus, they're exposed to even sometimes the political issues that come along with getting a problem solved, because they're the key stakeholder. They're the ones driving that project. So let's talk about like how to train your workforce, because in technology, I think it's one of the places that's most unique. Like if you're an accounting person and you bring in an AP clerk, Their job is their job. It's going to be their job at your company, the next company, the next company. The only thing that's different is perhaps the procedures that they follow or the rules that they're following. But with tech, things are changing daily. So how do you train your workforce to keep up with what's going on?
So the way I kept up as a manager or as an engineer myself is just to keep up with the latest technologies that the manufacturers are pumping out into the market, or also picking up on trends. So when in 2005, I got lucky because I picked up on this trend called voice over IP. Everyone going from analog PBX systems to voice over IP, a unified network of converging data, video, voice, all on the Ethernet cable. And that was like mind blowing to me. Like, wow, not only can we move data packets, now we're going to do video, voice. And I became obsessed with this trend. And I was basically the subject matter expert that was passionate about this tech, vocalizing it to my team and also my boss at the time, the VP of IT, and saying, this is the future. We're in the Stone Ages. Check the solution out. I think it's going to do X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. And that was the game changer. Is how do you stay up to date? You got to get passionate. You got to get passionate about what's new. What's the up and coming trends that's going to help the business also differentiate itself. So, technology is now used to help the business innovate. Wow. Now this department is no longer a tech support, like problem solving center, but an innovation center. And I would say that's the fastest way to learn new technologies, to be able to have the department approve new technologies, to allow a bigger budget to accommodate these IT solutions coming into a department. And that's how you get trained. And then the partners and the manufacturers will come in to help train you and your team. So all my training has been through projects, through vendors, partners, and I would build in the training as this new solution came into the department. So I would make sure my whole team would get cross-trained on these new systems like the unified, voice system, or maybe it's a call center solution, or maybe it's a new satellite SATCOM system that we implement after Hurricane Katrina to get all the ATMs up no matter what, because AT&T literally shut off the whole grid, like their whole backup to the backup. It was all down when Katrina hit. And so that is what's exciting. And if you can get your boss to be excited about all these trending technology stacks coming into the market, that's how you keep up to date.
I love that term, innovation center. I used when I worked with a restaurant delivery service for probably almost a decade, and the owners are very entrepreneurial. Everything was that they had run, other than the technology, they'd done everything in the company before. So come from delivering the food to taking the orders, they had done it. But what they struggled with was that back then, especially, there was so many bad tech consultants who would come in, promise the world, take your money, and deliver nothing. And so, like, one of the things that I wanted to do is we had at the time a client server application that they used to take the orders for customers as they would call in, and it wasn't very fast at all. Like, it was pretty bad. And they told me, we want to expand across the country. You got to do something about this. So it was my job to come up with a strategy. Well, biggest problem was we had this screen that was like for dispatching the orders, and it would change colors. And so there was a lot of refreshing going on with the code. And I pitched an idea of taking everything and making a web-based application out of it and turning it into that, and it would be much faster. Now we don't want to do that. It's too much money. So finally, after pushing again, trying many, many different ways, I used a little bit of innovation. I took the dispatch screen out of the software. I installed a web-based dispatch screen inside of like a web browser control, and then I released it. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell my other developers that were working with me. And I'm just going to put this out. I'm the boss. It's going out. I started getting calls. What did you do to the dispatch screen? It's so fast. What did you do? Well, that one thing alone convinced them to spend $500,000 and redo the software. They ended up selling their company to Grubhub for $87 million, and all they wanted was the technology. That was it. They didn't care about anything else. I mean, they could have put the company in a business. So, it just goes to show, you have to think outside the box as a
Yes.
technologist always. And I mean, that's why I did things like the what's working, what's not working, key stakeholders, etc. So, like for you, actually, I want to ask you, since you mentioned AI earlier, and I like to ask people, what are your thoughts on the future of AI? And do you think it's a good or a bad thing, and why? So, future of AI, good and bad, why?
Yeah, I think the good is that we get to automate a lot of the mundane tasks that we don't want to do. And for example, I may want to create a outline for a deployment project, and I can use AI to create basically implementation plan, or even a handoff plan. And so that's where I think AI comes in handy a lot, is being able to still be the visionary, the creative, and now I can allow AI to do the mundane task, and then use AI or use myself where I can spend more time in the technology, the architecture of the actual tech solution. Where I think it's headed is really around, containers, VMs. Like that was kind of the last decade, right? Virtualizations. Now I think AI is going to layer on top of these kind of container solutions to automate deployments much faster at wider scale. So now if you can learn these tools instead of worrying about displacing your job, because it's not, there's going to be over 50 billion devices over the next few years that will be connected online that all need to be installed, configured, like everything's getting an IP address. And so if you think about that, the bad, I would say, is AI is going to allow a lot more creativity, innovation, and it's going to create exponential growth in our technologies. However, the bad, I would say, maybe could be that we need a better handle on it, right? Like that's the only scary thing that I can think about. Like Elon Musk says, like, hey, we got to be really careful how we roll out AI, because AI can create its, what if AI decides that, like, it's better without us, right? Like, so like I would say that's the scariest doomsday scenario, but I'm a technologist, so I embrace new technology as it comes in. And so I don't look at it as a bad thing. I believe it's the natural evolution of technology, and we're just at this kind of focal point where in the last year we've made more progress in AI versus in the last decade. That is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, well, I can't recall if it was, I think it's called Microsoft SMS, the deployment tool that you used to use to like push software out through your network. Imagine, I can remember all the struggles we had with like, oh, this machine is different than that machine, or this group of machines is different from that group of machines. And so you have to have a completely different deployment plan, and it can't run at the same time. Imagine if you had AI built on top of that could actually, as it connected to the machine, realize which kind of machine it is and just grab that correct deployment and push it to that machine, rather than the humans having to decide who gets what. And in fact, the AI could even go down and do tests on that machine and what are its capabilities. Oh, it's an A machine or it's a B machine, and then push the correct software to it. I think if it's used that way, we're going to see some really positive gains in the industry. And so many people are so aware. I mean, I personally am one who, I hear the doomsday scenarios and I kind of just brush it off, because I mean, so many people are aware of that I can't see that becoming a problem. I have a bit of a fear of government stepping in and over regulating. That's always, what squelches technological innovation, is when government decides, hey, we're going to regulate that right out of existence. I mean, it's happening to cryptocurrency. It's becoming useless because governments are creating their own centralized digital currency. I mean, it's an interesting thing. But this has been a great conversation. I've really appreciated your input. You've got a lot of great information. Why don't you let the listeners know where they can find you?
Yeah, so you could find me on Project Kim. That's my Instagram handle. Our Instagram handle for our company is at Zero to Engineer. So at Project Kim or at Zero to Engineer on IG. And then you could also find this book on Amazon if you want to order it there. But if you want to get some of the bonuses, you can go to zerotoengineer.com/book. 4 months versus 4 years of college. Choice is yours.
Yeah, it sounds like an easy choice. So I'll remind the listeners that these things are always in the notes. So don't struggle to write it down, rewind, whatever. I'll just look down in the notes and you'll find it there. But again, Terry, thanks so much for being here today. You've given us some great insight. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
And
Mike. Thanks for having me.
And thanks everyone for listening to Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. We'll be back next week with another episode.